Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Sunday. It's Daryl here. It's 4 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. All right, so much to talk about today. I hate giving insanity any notice, any recognition, but I have to talk about what's going on. Let's talk about Roger Stone first. Okay, I'm sure I don't have to explain who Roger Stone is. Anybody watching this is going to know who he is. All right, political strategist. He calls into Alex Jones' show Thursday. I'm not sure if it's a podcast or it's a show. Tell you the truth, I don't pay attention to his nonsense. Being from around Sandy Hook, I have a particular hate for Alex Jones. Anyway, he calls into Alex Jones' show. And he puts some suggestions out to Trump over the air. Because apparently Roger Stone and Trump are both in Nevada this weekend. All right. So he suggests that if Trump loses the election, that he imposes martial law. And he imposes the Insurrection Act of 1807, which allows the military to go in country, to go in cities. And surprisingly, I didn't know a lot about the Insurrection Act. I've got a link down below. It's just a Wikipedia, but there's a list of when it was just last used in 1992. It was used during the Selma riots, the Los Angeles riots after Hurricane Hugo. I did not realize that we had U.S. troops in country so many times. But anyway, so Roger Stone put out these suggestions to Donald Trump, and we all know how Donald Trump listens to this stuff. This is the scariest thing about Trump is guaranteed if any of his friends or associates whisper something in his ear, it's going to come out. It's going to come out later. That little hamster wheel can't handle too much information, and there's no filter. And whatever goes in his ear will come out his mouth, just like a digestive tract there. I just thought of that. I'll just leave that one alone. Anyway, so he's talking about if Biden wins Nevada or election night, before the votes are even counted, apparently, if it looks like Biden's going to win, to send in Republican officials, U.S. Marshals, to seize all the ballots and throw them out. Swear to God, this is what Roger Stone is suggesting. Also, he thinks that Trump should immediately arrest any insurgents like Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Tim Cook from Apple, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook. Yeah, he suggests this. He suggests that the Daily Beast should be shut down and all their workers jailed and the whole office is shut down. You guys are probably familiar with the Daily Beast, a liberal news outlet. All right, and there's more. It's pure hardcore authoritarian insanity spewing out of Roger Stone's mouth on Alex Jones' show. Two nutcases if I've ever seen any. But let's stop. Let's just stop for a second and think about this and why I'm laughing. Roger Stone is a political strategist, a dirty trickster, if there ever was one. Think about that. He's a political strategist. He's on Alex Jones' show. Now, when I first read this, of course, I get alarmed. Then I think about this. This guy is very good at what I used to be good at, what I was a drug addict: deceit, manipulation. Now, what's he trying to do right now? Think about his audience, Alex Jones' audience. That is the MAGA set, the conspiracy theory that I mentioned in yesterday's video. It's the hardcore. Those hardcore listeners listening to that. And he's firing up. He's playing to his audience. And it's right before election. He's getting the base all fired up. I think a lot of that was rhetoric meant to bring back a lot of the people that Trump has lost. I think a lot of that stuff that Roger Stone was spewing, I hope a lot of it was to counter all the hits that Donald Trump has taken in the last week. Now think about it. It's been quid pro quo for Trump and Roger Stone. Stone lied about WikiLeaks and protected Trump and Stone with the WikiLeaks back in 2016. Roger Stone gets jailed. So it's like Roger Stone does Trump a favor. Then Trump does Roger Stone a favor by letting him out of jail. And it's coming back around again. Now Roger Stone's doing Trump a favor by going on Alex Jones' show and spewing all this stuff. And I honestly think he's trying to bring back a lot of the, probably the military, some of the military people they lost, all the stuff that Trump said about the military in the last week and everything. The hit he took with Christians, all the hits he took this whole week, COVID-19 and everything. And I think a lot of that, think about it, Roger Stone is a political strategist. That's what he does. That's what he's good at, deceit, manipulation. What he's saying on that show might not, you can't take it at face value. You got to think how a little rodent thinks, like Roger Stone. And there's a reason he's saying that. He's considering his audience. He's considering the timing. He's not a stupid man. He's an evil, dangerous man, but he's not stupid. And I think a lot of it was manipulation of Trump's base. And a lot of it, look at the man. He's got a tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back. This is a prime example of somebody that gets a perverse joy out of ticking off people like me, people like a lot of people that are watching this. That's one of his goals. He's got a tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back. Think about it. And then he does this thing. He gets a perverse joy out of this. He knows it's gonna whip up people like me into a frenzy. Don't fall for it. But now here's the thing. We know that Trump is incredibly easily influenced. Like I just said, whatever comes out his ear, goes in his ear from his friends, will come out his mouth at those rallies. We see him, and I've talked about this before. He feels this is what he's good at. He feels the crowd out. He plays the crowd. It's like a stand-up comedian. And when he hits something that plays good with the crowd, he just lets loose. And it's like he gets like this euphoric, like a buzz out of it. And then the verbal spewing just goes, and he goes for it. He gets a rush out of that adulation that he gets from the crowd. And the filter comes off completely. And whatever it was put in his ear earlier comes right out. And that's what happened Saturday. So Saturday, he's talking to Jeanine, Judge Jeanine, or again, I don't pay a lot of attention. A lot of conservative names I'm going to get wrong. I don't give them any mind. But he's talking to her. And he brings up a lot of this stuff. He heard Roger Stone because he brings a lot of this up Saturday. He starts talking about how he'd be more than happy to send in troops if there's any left-wing insurgency during the election. And we know this election's going to be close. We know this is going to be close. We know that Trump does not accept losing. Win at all costs. Doesn't matter if it's cheating, lying, stealing, whatever. Win at all costs. And it's going to be close. So, what's that tell you? What we're looking forward to on election night? So, he starts talking about how he'd be more than happy to send in troops if there's any insurgency on election night. And it's fun. And sure enough, he repeats a lot of the same stuff Roger Stone said on Alex Jones' show just 2 days earlier. It's scary how easily influenced this man is. This is one of the things that scares me the most. How the people on Fox News, he watches that show and they talk to him through the TV set. They say, "Mr. President, you should really do this or that." And, they look like they're kidding around. They're sitting on the couch. And sure enough, Trump's watching it, and it comes back, and Trump listens to their advice. It's like we're living in a horror movie sometimes. I swear to God. Between a comedy and a horror movie, or a horror comedy. I don't even know. All right, so this is something serious that really made me angry, though, that he kept going. And he talked about how those U.S. Marshals shot the suspect in the shooting in Portland of the right-wing guy. You know what? The sad thing is, you start to lose track after a while. Left-wing, right-wing, this one shooting here, shooting there. And that's the sad thing, this back and forth. And he says that retribution, that's the word he used, that there's got to be retribution. He talked about how they blew away that guy. And I still haven't heard a lot if he was armed, if that guy shot back or whatever, but there was 30 to 40 rounds fired. And Trump Saturday night, he talked about there has to be retribution for what happened in Portland with the right wing, the taking of the right wing protester's life. There has to be retribution for that. Think about that. Retribution. Look, I'm not schooled in law enforcement or anything, but I'm pretty sure retribution and law and order are two completely different things. Retribution sounds like vengeance and vigilantes, pretty much. Not pretty much the opposite of law and order. So once again, Trump is. I really think the more that he gets pushed against the ropes after this last week, you really start seeing his true nature. And speaking of that, one more thing. He brought up, because he took a lot of hits in the last week with Bob Woodward's book and everything, and being caught on what he said with the military. And he said he's kind of happy about that, because now he can be mean. He doesn't have to be nice anymore. When he says be mean, he means lie and dishonesty and win at all costs. He actually said this on Judge Jeanine's show, that now he could stop being nice with Joe Biden. And sure enough, he accuses Joe Biden of taking substances. Because apparently, the reason he said this is because Joe Biden's looked very spunky lately. Trump kept calling him Sleepy Joe and all this other stuff. And Biden's looking anything but sleepy. Biden is giving Trump some hits. And it's surprising Trump, apparently, because now Trump thinks there has to be some kind of substances that Joe Biden's taking, because he's got an awful lot of spunk in him. I get a kick out of that, because again, Trump is so basic that when he says these things, you could read what's bothering him. You could read what scares him. You could read what surprises him, because he's very basic. He doesn't hide things very well. He's very emotional, and he just spews these things out. But anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about. Roger Stone and his call for martial law on election night. And there was more too. The jailing of Hillary Clinton and anybody that committed criminal acts. And who's the judge? Apparently, Trump will be the judge of these, whatever's criminal. Anybody that says anything bad about him, I imagine, would be an insurgent. So this is the news for today. Roger Stone and his bizarre ramblings on his fellow lunatics show, Alex Jones show, and then Trump kind of repeating a lot of that on Judge Jeanine's show Saturday night. So it's going to be an interesting election night this year, to say the least. All right, I'll be back later with another video. You guys have a good Sunday.